Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you guys? So we are here with the chapter number 8. I'm sorry, it's a typo mistake. Chapter number it's 8, training human resource. So we have been discussing this chapter for last 2 days. This is the part 3 of the same chapter. So we will be starting where we left. Okay, this video series is specifically intended for the students of Sukkur University, BBA 8 and MS PhD Deficiency courses. And we are here, we have been discussing about training human resources. So let's start where we left. So training delivery, when you are actually going, when you have designed the training and now you have to conduct the training, what are the necessary things that you have to keep in mind while delivering your training? So these are the basic considerations, such as the nature of the training. First of all, you have to identify what kind of the training you are going to conduct, whether it is a normal routine regular training, whether it's a problem solving or interpersonal training, or is it related to any job or technical activity, or is it intended for specifically career and development type of a training for specific middle level management. First of all, you have to identify the nature of the training. Then you have to think about the subject matter, how you are going to deliver that subject matter, whether you are going to conduct the training online or you are going to have this training in a soft skill or hard skill. You have to identify, or you are going to adopt a blended approach to train your trainees or your employees that are coming in the training hall. The number of trainees, you have to ensure the number of trainees. So you have to ensure, you have to see, you have to look after everything, that how many students can sit, how many trainees, I'm sorry, how many trainees can sit in a training hall, whether it's a training hall or training room or it's a conference room. So how many trainees or how many employees can be accommodated in that specific room. Then you have to consider about whether you are going to have a team versus individual or individual versus team, whether you are going to have a group approach or whatever the case is. Okay, then the other thing that has to be considered while delivery, that is it is going to be a self-paced or guided. Is it you who is going to guide the trainees one by one from one topic to another topic, or it is the trainees themselves who will manage? If it's an online method, then it is certainly going to be a self-paced. Okay, even in online trainings these days, we have witnessed self-paced as well as guided, since we have been using these Zoom and Microsoft Teams softwares, and they have been a great help in conducting universities operations, as well as now these days organizations are also letting the employees to work from home. Therefore, we can train employees even by sitting at our own very homes. So it has been a very easy these days, since everybody is connected through cell phones, through internet, through laptops. So it was time when it was difficult. Therefore, we used to have the guided or self-paced. Now we actually use both types of methods to train employees. Okay, then the another thing that need to be considered is training resources and cost. What kind of resources would be required? Certainly, if you are going to train the employees, if it's in the hard skill or soft skill, then you have to ensure that you must have software, you must have computers, you must have laptops, you must have projector. If it's a classroom, then you multimedia facilities need to be there. Okay, just a minute, I need some break because I am having certain disturbance out there. I need to think. Okay, sorry, I was having some disturbance over here since I am sitting in hostel and people are going outside and making noises. So I beg your pardon. Moving towards where we are. So training resources and cost needed. Okay, first of all, you have to identify, you have to be sure that whether you are going to conduct a training inside the organization or you are going to outsource a trainer or you are sending your trainees outside, because the cost is affiliated with both types of trainings. Internal trainings are most of the time are efficient types of trainings. These are less resource consuming and less cost consuming. Whereas if you send your employees to the outside or external for external trainings, then it is going to be an expensive and costly activity. Therefore, you have to identify all these things necessary. And another thing that need to be considered here, actually, when you are going to conduct a training for if your organization is considering internal types of training, then you need to be sure that you have all the resources required to conduct the training. Say, for instance, if I, if it's a soft skill training, then for soft skill training, you need to have all the necessary equipment. That is equipment. When I'm saying equipment, that means you need to have the computer, may it be a desktop, may it be a laptop, whatever the case is. You need to have a multimedia projector, you need to have the speakers if you have to show some videos or whatever the case is. Okay, you need to have all the necessary booklets, note copies, okay, training manuals, whatever the things apart from it are also required, they need to be there. If it's a hard skill training, then you need to have all the necessary equipments on which you are going to perform those operations, because hard skill training and employees would be involved in those operations. Therefore, you need to have a bigger space where employees can go and work on those skills. Okay, proceeding to the next point, that is e-learning versus traditional learning. Okay, you have to ensure when you are delivering a training, whether you are going electronic or you are going for a traditional type of learning, that is a classroom type of learning. Okay, these days we have been using both types of trainings because the cost is affiliated with both these points. If a traditional cost, if it's a traditional learning, then it's a classroom type of learning where employees would come, sit in the conference hall or training hall, and a trainer would come. A trainer can be an internal employee, it can be an outsourced trainer from outside consultancy. Therefore, there can be both options. Okay, these days what we are doing, when we have the electronic learning, we actually have these artificial intelligence, or we have these recorded lectures, just the way I am at the moment recording my lecture for my fellow students. So this type of trainings or e-learning is being used these days. Okay, ji. Another point that need to be considered while delivery is the geographical location. You have to ensure in which geographical area you are going to conduct a training, because every geographic area has its own limitations, and it has its own limitations in terms of what culture. Okay, from one company, from one country to another country, you will have different types of people and different types of cultures. Therefore, you need to understand the geographical locations as well. Okay, ji. When it comes to the geographical, you have to identify, you have to ensure whether you are actually training at your head office or at a remote area or at a regional area, in which area of your country you are actually giving trainings. That is why it's important to consider the geographical locations as well, because you have to design your training in such a way that it may not harm any reputation or anybody or any emotional attachment with that geographical area of any person. So you need to be cautious about the sensitive things in those areas. That is important. Okay, time allotted for a specific training, whether it's a 1 day activity, whether it's in 1 hour activity, what kind of training it is. Okay, normally when we have these regular or routine type of trainings, for instance, if I need to have a training how to use Zoom, so certainly to using a Zoom software or Microsoft Teams, how to operate it, I need hardly 1 or 2 hours to understand the basic operations of the software. Therefore, the time consumed to understand this thing would be less as compared to any other activity. Therefore, you have to consider what kind of training it is and what type of nature it is and how much time will it take to give that knowledge to your trainees or your participants. Okay, then the first, last, and the final point is completion timeline. You have to divide the content as per the timeline. You have to divide all the topics as per the time. Say, for instance, if I am having this sheet, this slide at the moment, therefore I need to highlight the time. So if I will be talking on nature of training, then I will take hardly 2 or 3 minutes on this point. Then subject matter, it would take hardly 1 or 2 minutes. The number of trainees, I will be giving at least 1 minute or 2 minutes. In this way, I have to assign time limitations to each point. So when you are delivering a training, you have to divide the subject line into a timeline. Moving forward, training delivery options. Okay, ji, we have two options when you are going to deliver a training. Whether you are going to conduct a training, it is going to be an internal training, or whether you are sending your employees to outside organizations. You are opting for external training, external mode of trainings. So what are these types of trainings? Let's explore one by one. So coming to the internal trainings first, traditional classrooms. Okay, mostly what we do, we when I was actually explaining you the knowledge management, we were discussing that the basic job of the HR department or the HR human resource development department is this, that they have to identify the talented employees where they are sitting in their organization and leveraging their intelligence, leveraging their intellectual capital by giving trainings to other employees. Say, for instance, I'm an expert in a specific area. You can use my expertise to train other employees. So, traditional environment, traditional classroom environment is such a type of internal training in which the management will ask me to train other employees. So, it would be a conference room or any training room if your organization has a specific designated area as training room. So you will go to that room and participants will also come to that room and you will conduct your class as we teachers conduct our class. The second type is on the job training. What we do here, we actually ask our participants or our trainee internees कह सकते हैं, you can call them internees. You actually ask them about a job, about a task, about an assignment, and see how they are doing, and you give them feedback. This is what the on the job training is. When you are actually on the job and doing your job and you are making errors and you are making mistakes and someone is there to correct your mistakes. The third type is the self-guided training at company portals. Okay, self-guided portal or self-guided training is such a form of a training which is sometimes referred as electronic learning, where you will find 10 minutes video, 5 minutes video. These videos are actually basically lectures or instructions whereby you have been said, you might have experienced Coursera. At Coursera, when you actually assign or when you sign in for a course, you have little smaller milestones to achieve. When one module is complete, then another module will start, and each module is subdivided in different sections, and each section has its own 4 or 5 videos. You have to see those videos, and once you complete those videos, you will be having certain assignments, certain tasks to be performed. You have to write some blogs or whatever the case is. These such type of learning is referred as self-guided training at company portal. These self-guided trainings are actually online learning resources that are available to the company employees. They can use that resources at any time and complete in a specific training, and they will have a certificate when they complete it. Mentoring and coaching is another type of a coaching, another type of a training, whereby you actually mentor or coach your employees. It's a hands-on practice when employees actually perform certain thing and your boss or your trainer or the mentor or your coach actually comes and demonstrates how you can do your job. Mostly this type of jobs are done when you are performing certain hard skill type of a training where you are physically involved. Job shadowing. Now, what happens in job shadowing? We generally attach a trainee with another senior fellow, and his job is or her job is only to see what the senior fellow is doing, and the senior fellow's duty is to tell the junior that see what I am doing and how am I doing, and if you are having certain questions you can ask me and I will answer those questions. And in this way that trainee actually assists the senior and senior actually keeps on giving him or her different assignments, different tasks, smaller objectives, and in this way the person is actually being developed by and by, slowly and gradually. But it depends what kind of job it is. Mostly the mechanical engineers are attached to the senior mechanical engineer since they are involved in same type of an activity, and their main job is to okay to learn from each other. Another example that came to my mind is this, that succession planning. You might have heard about succession planning. In succession planning, what we actually do, we actually have to attach another fellow, a junior fellow, whom we consider that this person can be developed for the future. We attach him with a senior management colleague who will keep him all the time with himself or herself, and the junior will learn from the senior. This type of training is referred as job shadowing. They are actually shadowing each other. Okay, developing teachers internally. This type of training is involved when we have knowledge management in place. We find out experts and we ask experts to develop few more experts. And this ripple effect actually exists and we replicate this type of learning. And by developing such a capability in an organization, an extraordinary achievement of the company. Cross training. Cross trainings are sometimes referred as job rotation, whereby you actually learn different activities performed on different job desks. Say, for instance, today I was actually performing my job in training and development section of the HR. Tomorrow or a month after this month, I might be using or might be working in performance management department, and a month or two after it I will be performing my duties in compensation management department, and after 2 or 3 months working in compensation section I might be switched to another department. Say for instance it can be IR, it can be recruitment, it can be selection, depends. And in this way, what happens, an employee learns about various different activities being performed in a department. You become expert about various activities being performed. But everything has its own pros and cons. I will be discussing about cross training in my later slides, but for now, let's proceed. Training projects. What happens in training projects? Times, sometimes this type of training is undertaken for engineers or software engineers or software computer science or artificial intelligence students, whereby they are given certain tasks and they are asked that they have to complete those tasks, and those tasks can be different projects depending upon, and there is no necessary thing that these projects might be used in practical life, but in order to develop their skills they are being assigned different activities for which we already have existing solutions. But we actually want to see whether our junior fellows knows how to utilize those skills that they have learned. So this type of trainings is important but not always they are effective. because it takes time and it's an opportunity cost. We cannot waste time by only giving projects that are not used in practical life. Okay, the group based classroom. Mostly what happens in group based approaches, we actually divide a classroom into different groups and we ask them to attend different trainings at different times in time slots. And what happens in these trainings, they have to go through different stages with different trainers and they learn different types of trainings. Okay, when it comes to the external training, second part of the delivery options, the third party delivered trainings, we have different training agencies or consultancies available in the market. We take services from those agencies, but those external options of training delivery are most of the time are expensive. We don't go for them. But if your company is small and you don't have resources and you don't have intellectual capital, or you don't have expert areas, or you don't have experts in those specific areas, then you are compelled to go for the external types of trainings. Web conferences, mostly web conferences are these days free. Everybody can come and have these training it outside location. We send our employees to another places. Say for instance I am in a school of leadership, Karachi. And most of the time, these types of organizations and these consultancies have different types of trainings, and people from different walks of life come and register themselves for specific trainings and come and sit and have chit chat and learn from each other. Most of the time, you will have diversified, experienced people coming from different walks of life, and you actually learn through their experience. They come for different types of training. The trainer need to be expert in that area, else he won't be able to manage those diversified people coming with so much experience. Okay, podcast. What happens in podcast? Podcast is a different type of an electronic learning whereby few people actually come. You might have heard TEDx. So TEDx is a type of podcast. Educational leaves. We send our employees for educational leaves. Say for instance, if I send one of my employee for MS to UK, so he is going for an external training for 1 year masters in human resource management, say for instance, or compensation management, or green HRM. These are the modern concepts, or CSR, or sustainability. So different educational degrees are available there. Blended type of training whereby when we have different methods combined, blended, and we use those types of trainings for our employees. Teleconferencing. Okay, we just the way I am at the moment having this lecture with you people through connected links. This is an important also. Internal trainings. Now all these trainings are being again explained more briefly, more in detail. So what do you mean? We were discussing about internal trainings. In fact, I have explained everything to you, what are the various different methods of internal training. But now, since the book explains them one by one, so I will be helping you guys to understand this thing. But let me stop it because this video has gone for more than 30 minutes. So let me another let me make another video for it. So we shall be starting from here. For now, I want to stop it